chairperson of this committee. I just want to welcome all of our members as well as our officials and the guests joining us this morning, as well as all of the residents and viewers of the Western Cape watching us on YouTube. Just a reminder of the cardinal rules of Western Cape Provincial Parliament online conferencing. All participants are requested to please mute themselves if they are not speaking. Members are welcome to use the chat function for points of order, and I ask that you please identify yourself when speaking, and please use the mic and the video when you are speaking. If you're not speaking, please turn the video off and the microphone, as the spotlight will then be on the next speaker. If anyone is presenting anything, I ask that you please control the presentation from your side, and that you also switch the presentation off when you are completed. I'm now going to ask members to introduce themselves. I will start with Member Mackenzie.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ricardo Mackenzie.
Good morning, Chairperson and colleagues. Wendy Philander.
Good morning, everyone. Member Van Vogel.
Good morning, everybody. Member Brandes.
Are those all the members that have introduced themselves? And Namonde, do we have any apologies for this morning?
Chairperson?
Yes, Member Philander.
Yes, I'm present, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Namonde, do we have any apologies?
Morning, I'm
Morning, Member Baku Force. You sound like you're a pilot flying a plane. I'm now going to ask our guests to introduce themselves.
Good morning, honorable members. I am Bandile Maqetuka, the Regional Executive Manager for Sasa in the Western Cape, Eastern Cape, and Northern Cape. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I'm Henry de Graaff, the General Manager, Grants Administration, Sasa Western Cape Region. Thanks.
Good morning, Chair and honourable members. I'm Diane Dunkley. I'm responsible for Grants Administration from Sasa Head Office. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, honourable members. Good morning, Chairperson. My name is Fanny Sitoha. I'm General Manager for Grants Administration. I'm based at head office.
Do we have any other guests online that needs to introduce themselves? Okay, I'm now going to hand over to our officials to please introduce themselves.
Morning, members. My name is Ben Taza. I'm the Senior Procedural Officer for the Western Cape Provincial Parliament.
Morning, members. My name is Nomonde Jamke, Procedural Officer for Social Development and Health.
Morning, Chairperson and members and fellow guests. My name is Romeo. My surname is Maastor. I'm the Legal Advisor for Provincial Parliament. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, colleagues, and a very good morning to our IT support staff, Siraj and his team, for joining us as well and making sure that this meeting happens from a technical perspective. Members, our first order of the day is going to be a briefing by the South African Social Security Agency on the extension of the COVID-19 Relief of Distress grant. As you know, the background to this meeting is that a number of attempts has been made by this committee to get the Western Cape Provincial Sasa to brief our committee. Sasa has finally agreed to honor this invitation, and today's meeting comes after I've written to the CEO of Sasa Ms. Mamela Kambula on the 12th of October, requesting that Sasa consider extending the payment of COVID-19, the SRD 350 grant. The CEO responded to this request on the 3rd of November and reported that Sasa has extended the distress grant until the end of January 2021. She further mentioned that Sasa has received over 9 million applications for this grant, of which just over 6 million had been approved by the 21st of October, and a total of just over 3 million has been declined. What was concerning there is, of those numbers, 820,724 applications were received from the Western Cape, of which 414,613 were approved and 391,911 were declined. And it leaves 14,200 applications that still needed to be processed. Of the approximately 40,000 appeals registered to date, 3,394 are from applicants in the Western Cape, and the balance of the appeals received make up approximately 60,000 reported. So there's still lots of appeals registered as well. So due to the numbers of applications received and declined from the Western Cape, as chairperson of this committee, I decided to re-invite Sasa to come and brief the committee on this matter. They've now honored our invitation to brief, and there's certain issues that the CEO of Sasa has with reporting to this committee. In her communication to me, she's indicated that she is not responsible to reporting to this committee. She's only responsible to report to the National Minister of Social Development. And as you know, we've tried in vain to get the National Minister of Social Development to respond to us. So we've now invited Sasa in terms of Section 115 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa and Standing Rule 91D of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament Standing Rule. So what we're going to do now, members, we're going to receive the presentation from Sasa, and I'm not sure if Mr. Makatuka or any of his other colleagues, which of them will be doing the presentation, but we'll go directly into that presentation, and then we will open the floor for questions and for discussion. Is that in order with you, members?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Makatuka. Yes, Mr. Mackenzie?
Sorry, I might have missed the communication, and we'll discuss it in detail after the presentation. If you can just obviously share that communication from the minister and the officials and the latest stats with us, because I can't remember seeing it.
Thank you. And Monday will make sure that all members get those letters as well. Mr. Makatuka, are you going to be doing the presentation?
Good morning, Chair, once again, and honorable members. Chair, our National Executive Manager responsible for grants administration, Ms. Diane Dunkley, will be the one presenting on behalf of Sasa. Myself, Mr. Tigra, and the GM from head office, Mr. Fanisa Toka, will be adding if a need arises. However, when it comes to questions, we'll be able to respond as a collective, all of us. We have since requested Ms. Diane Dunkley to table the presentation on behalf of Sasa in her capacity as a head of grants administration nationally. However, on regional specific questions for Western Cape, we'll be able to respond directly to those questions if you allow us, Chairperson. That's how we have arranged our proceedings for the day from the Sasa side.
Thank you very much, sir. That is in order with me, and you may proceed. So we'll hand over to Ms. Diane Dunkley to start the presentation.
Good morning, honourable members. Is everybody able to see the presentation?
Yes, we are, ma'am. You may go ahead.
Let me just get it on the presentation mode. Okay, fine. Good morning, Chairperson and honourable members. I thought it was quite important as we meet with the members just to recap on the process for the SRD grant, and then we would look at the current numbers. And as Mr. Makatuka was saying, we would then be in a position to respond to questions. So I will run through the presentation. There are some of the slides that I won't spend too much time on, but certainly we would be able to answer questions. If I can then just move straight in. Just to recap on the qualification criteria, and I think this is quite important. And Honourable Chairperson, in your introduction, you had said that Sasa had agreed to extend the grant. I think it needs to be understood right up front that Sasa is the implementing agent of the Department of Social Development. So the directions in terms of who qualifies for the grant, the extension of the grant, and all those kinds of policy decisions are made by the Department of Social Development, and Sasa then is the one that does the implementing of those decisions. As we're all aware, the announcement to introduce a special COVID social relief grant was made towards the end of April, and May was the first month that it became a grant within our environment. It was initially provided for a period of 6 months, which has since been extended by another 3 months to the end of January 2021. The people who qualify are all South African citizens, permanent residents, refugees, and then by court order, also asylum seekers and special permit holders from Lesotho, Angola, and Zimbabwe. They need to meet qualifying criteria, so they need to be resident in this country, above the age of 18, unemployed, and it's also important to note that the directions talk about somebody who is distressed, so that needs to come into how we deal with the applications that have been received. They can't receive. Sorry. Yes, sir.
Just a moment. Are you able to just put the presentation in presentation mode, slideshow mode?
I did try that. Let me try again. Is that better?
That's much better. Thank you so much.
Okay. My apologies. Sorry. And sorry, sir, you had something else you wanted to ask?
No, that's fine. I just noted someone's hand, but we've resolved that in the chat box.
Okay, thank you so much. Right. I just want to explain a little bit about the qualifying criteria around not receiving any income. This means that this grant has a 0 threshold, unlike our other social grants, which all set an income threshold for people to meet. This one says if somebody is receiving income from any source, regardless of the amount, they will not qualify for this grant. And I think that's an important distinction to keep in mind. Certainly, they can't be benefiting from a social grant or from any other government COVID-19 interventions at all. And that includes a number of them that are not necessarily listed here that talk to the support that was provided to sportsmen, the support provided to owners of spaza shops, the support provided to farmers. All of those are areas that we needed to look at when we did the application processing. Then I thought it was quite important just to take members through the actual application process, because again, it works slightly differently to how it would work with the normal social grant. Every single application for this grant is dealt with on a monthly basis. So this grant is not processed and approved for the period that the grant would be in place. It is reconsidered every single month. Now, we receive applications through multiple channels, such as the WhatsApp, USSD, email, and website. And I need to just also stress that it was the first time that we went entirely electronic with an application for a social grant, something that we have really learned lessons from, and I think will stand us in good stead as we move forward. Once we receive those applications, and we will look at the numbers shortly, and then you would understand why it was necessary to deduplicate. We ended up with about 9 million unique applications. However, in terms of the total number of applications we received, it was in excess of 17 million. And that was because many people applied multiple times or applied through all of the application channels. So as soon as we received the applications, we needed to deduplicate and make sure that we had one complete application per ID number or per permit permit number so that we know we're dealing with a single individual. Once those applications were received, in preparation for the processing of this grant, we worked with the South African Revenue Services and Department of Home Affairs, and they took the total population of all citizens registered with Home Affairs and took out all the people under the age of 18 and all those over 60, because they could be supported through other programs that are provided by Sasa and government. That then became a qualifier database. So as soon as we received the deduplicated applications, they were then run through that qualifier database to make sure that the information matched. So an ID number matches with a name and a surname, and it is on the population qualifier database. Once those had been checked and we got them back and they're correct, and we know we're dealing with people who are registered in this country, we then would start running them against the various databases that I'm going to talk about. And the checking against the databases we received from other government departments was to make sure that the applicant did not receive any other support from government, and certainly met the requirement of being distressed that was in the regulations. We did receive a number of applications that failed that initial Home Affairs check, where if the person went onto the status on our system, they would see that the status stood as identity verification failed. And that was because people either misspelt their names, or they put their application in and captured the ID number against the name field, or used the name that they are known by, but not the name that they are registered by with Home Affairs. So there were a number of identity verification failed applications, and the applicant, as soon as they saw that status on the system, needed to go into the system and correct their personal details so that we could check them against that qualifier database and then push them through the validations that were required. If we look at the different validations that we've done, and I'll explain some of the challenges we had with them. Firstly, we checked against our own database to make sure that the person was not receiving a social grant. And it's important to know that even those that were benefiting from a child or had children who were benefiting from a child grant did not qualify for the 350 grant because of the additional caregivers allowance that was paid for the period from May to October. We did find a number of social grant recipients, despite the fact that they did not, and it was made very clear up front that they did not qualify for the relief grant, still applied for the grant, and they were then declined. We also checked our information against the Department of Correctional Services to make sure that the applicant was not detained in a correctional facility. Again, we had a number of applications being made on behalf of or by people in correctional facilities, and those were obviously declined because the state is already supporting them. Whether it is voluntary or not is not an issue for discussion for this grant, but the state is certainly responsible for their support. We checked against the PERSAL, which is the salary system for government employees, as well as PERSOL, which is the salary system for the police and the soldiers. These databases were relatively straightforward, and we were able to eliminate the people who were in fact receiving income from these sources. With the government employees, we also checked against the government employees' pension fund, because those people were receiving an income and therefore would not have qualified. We checked against the NSFAS database to make sure that the applicant was not receiving a stipend from NSFAS. This one, there were some challenges with the data that we received. We did find that there were some errors both of inclusion and exclusion. We subsequently requested a refreshed database, but you will see when I come to the reasons for the decline, particularly in the Western Cape, that there are still some that are showing on the NSFAS database, but the applicant is saying to us they're not receiving a stipend. Those ones we've sent through to NSFAS to say to us, please respond by ID number as to whether these people are receiving a stipend or not, because it's only those that are receiving a stipend that would be excluded. Those that have applied and were not approved, or who applied but didn't get a place in a university, Those ones can't be excluded from the 350 grant. The biggest challenge we had was with the UIF database. When we started, there were a number of challenges, and it is because of various reasons. Just one example that I may give is that when somebody starts working and they're registered by their employer on the database, and they then either change that employment or they stop working, the employer does not necessarily always go back to UIF and say, this employee is no longer my employee. They stop making the contributions, but the database is not updated. So there were some serious challenges with this database, and we're in constant contact with UIF to get a refreshed database. And as we've received information, we've reconsidered the people going forward. We're now dealing with the appeals going backwards, and I will speak a little bit about that as I come to the appeals. The National Population Register I've spoken about and explained some of the challenges we had with that, particularly with people that didn't provide the information as it is registered with Home Affairs. People could have got married and changed their surname at Home Affairs, but not changed the ID book, and various challenges there. There were also different challenges that came in with the refugees and the asylum seekers. Refugees we've managed to resolve, but the asylum seekers is still creating a bit of a challenge for us. The next database which we then checked against was the Sars database to see who is submitting an RP5, because this is compulsory for everybody who is employed. A refreshed database was received for everybody who submitted an RP5 related to the tax year from March 2019 to February 2020. We understand that this is a challenge because there could have been some people who were employed in the last tax year but who are no longer employed, but will still reflect on that database. So it is a timing issue and a currency issue there. And then one of the requirements that was set in the regulations but was subsequently amended was that we needed to do means testing with the banks. This meant that we had the banks check the ID numbers of the applicants, and if there was an inflow into that account, regardless of the amount, because of the zero means test that I explained earlier, then they would be excluded. However, when we applied this, and we applied it only from August going forward because we needed to sort out the contracts with the banks in the preceding period, and there were about 1.9 million people who were excluded through this means testing with the banks. And it really became a challenge and an issue of fairness because we were only able to means test with 7 banks and not all the 24 registered banks in the country. As a result, our minister then changed the directions to say, no, we wouldn't use the means testing for the normal applications. So those 1.9 million cases that had been declined were all reconsidered and paid if they qualified, but that the means testing will be used when we do the appeals because we're not able to get all of the refreshed databases. So in order to determine whether those who appeal are in fact distressed citizens, we will use the means testing through the banks for the appeal cases. Then some of the other aspects and some of the other challenges we had with processing the applications. The process was the person would do the application. If they were approved, they were then requested to provide banking details where they had them or choose a mobile money option. There were some serious delays experienced from approved applicants in providing these details. Some of the applicants also gave us the details of perhaps a husband or another family member's account. And when we did the bank verification, then we were not able to pay into those accounts. There were also some cases that failed the bank verification process because the person chose the wrong account type, that they have a savings account, but they put it was a current account. And then we also had challenges with people changing their payment options several times. They would go into the system and say, pay me through my bank with Standard Bank, here's my details. Go back an hour later and say, no, don't pay into Standard Bank, rather pay into First National. An hour or two later, go back and say, no, don't pay into an account, but rather give me cash send. Now, with the cash send, that is the money that is sent through to a mobile phone. Again, one of the requirements that was set for us is that the mobile phone needs to be verified to belong to the applicant. We can't pay into the mobile phone of a family member or somebody else who applied on behalf of the applicant. So a number of the people that chose to be paid through the mobile phone, we could not pay because the phone's not registered in their name. This meant that all of those people that had chosen cash send as an option or chosen to be paid into a bank account where we couldn't verify the link between the applicant and the account had to by default be sent to the post office. Now that created a challenge because the post office was really supposed to be our option for payments for people who could not be paid through one of the other two payment methods. And we were really in the planning, the limited planning we had due to the timeframes, we're thinking that the post office would get maybe 100,000 or 200,000 people that couldn't be paid either through a bank account or a cash send. However, it has turned out that more than 4 million of the approved applicants go to the post office, which really creates a challenge for the post office. Their infrastructure was never intended to be able to deal with those kind of numbers on a monthly basis, because the people that are paid through the post office need to go there in person per month and go and collect their money. So it really has created challenges for us. As I've said, the other challenge we experienced was around the provision of the personal details, and I have spoken about this. There is a way that people can correct these so that their application can be validated. It does not decline the application, but it has stopped them before validation because of the mismatch, and we're unable to confirm who we're dealing with. It was really important for us to do that verification with Home Affairs because we have no personal contact with these applicants, unlike our other social grants. So it was really important that we're able to confirm through a credible source that these are citizens that are in South Africa that are registered with Home Affairs. Then, as I said, one of the other challenges was with the post office visits. As I explained, we have 4 million people going to the post offices on a monthly basis, and their infrastructure really cannot assist. What we tried to do to manage that space was to schedule the people through SMS notifications so that as much as their grant had been approved, we requested them not to go to the post office to collect it until they'd received that SMS to say that it is available for collection. A number of the people, the minute they see that it is approved on the system, then immediately go to the post office, and it just adds to the queues at the post office. We're continuing to engage with the post office management on an ongoing basis to try and deal with this and to make sure that we're able to try and schedule the people rather than having everybody go at the same time. There are other systems that have been put in place. For example, as the people get to the post office, they're given a number, and it's only those people who will be assisted on that day. And this is trying to help with the complaints that we've received that there are so-called queue holders that will get up early and go and stand in the queue at the post office and then sell their space to somebody who arrives later. So we are dealing with the post office management to see how we're able to address this. And then the whole system, the application and the approval and the notification system runs on an SMS notification basis. We did have challenges with applicants who don't respond to the SMS notifications, or applicants who change their mobile numbers and then don't tell us about it, which really creates challenge for us to be able to trace these people. We do have some people that we're actually having to try and trace manually and individually because we're not able to get information. They're not responding to the SMSs. We're not able to get them on their mobile numbers that they've given us. Now, if I just look, and I thought I would give a national picture first, and these are the statistics of the applications as at the 2nd of November. And there are various categories which I'll run through fairly briefly. You'll see that the biggest number of applications were received in May, and that is on the white line at the top. So, and this was as the grant was announced. So we received 6.6 million applications, And then for the following months, we've just tabulated the new applications received in that month. They get added to the base of the 6.6 that then are validated every single month. And that is what is shown in the next line, in the sort of pinky colored line. So you'll see month on month. In May, we validated 6.6 million. It went up to 7.5 million in June, and so on, right through to October, where we validated 9.267 million applications. The only applications up to the end of October, which are still in the validation process, is 121,124. And those ones are, we're waiting for bank verification, or there is something else that we are still busy with the process, wanting to verify the mobile number or so on. But apart from those, every other application that has been received has been validated for every single month. And you can see the numbers, and those are set out in the blue blocks. Now, the total number of applications rejected as at October is 3.1 million, and that is across the country. It was also interesting in the following line, in that sort of light pinky color, that some people, and we've seen it particularly since the lockdown levels have been lifted slightly, where people who previously were unable to work because of the type of work that were doing are now able to get back into those that work environment. And we're talking here particularly with the hairdressers, the nail technicians, even the waiters that were really dependent on the people contact, and all of those who could not do anything in the initial stages of lockdown. So we have had some people, albeit very small numbers, we've had 43 to date, but who've actually come back to us and said, thank you very much, but we no longer need the grant. We are now able to work, and we're earning an income again. We've also, through the processes, done a risk profiling of applications, and you'll see we've got 42,141 applications which have been referred. These are applications which, through the risk profiling, have been identified by various bodies, including the Fraud Prevention Database, which is managed by the banks, as being extremely high risk, where either the ID was used in fraudulent transactions before, or the ID was reported stolen, or the cell phone number was reported stolen, and so on. These are then sent to our investigators just to do a quality assurance on, and as soon as the quality assurance process has been completed, those that are approved will be paid. Those that are found not to qualify will obviously not be paid, and the applicants will be informed. And then we have a total of 68,837 applications that are still in the banking process. And these are ones where we are specifically waiting. People have given us their bank account details, but we're waiting for the bank account verification process to be finalized, where the banks come back to us and say, yes, the account is positively linked to this person, to the name, to the ID number, and it is an open and a valid account. You can pay money into that account. Now, if you just look at May under that row, you'll see 941 people. These are people that we are having to trace in person, because that we can't open a bank account, or there isn't a bank account for them to be paid into. We can't pay into the mobile phone because we're no longer able to link that mobile number to them directly. And we are unable to even open an account in the post office environment, because the post office either has an account for them in another name linked to that ID number or so on. And these people were having to personally try and contact to get updated information so that we are able to pay them. So in total, if you look up until the end of October, we have paid 98.8% of all the approved applicants, and with only 1.15% still to be paid. And then we'll look in the next slide specifically at the Western Cape. It just pulls those numbers out from the national statistics, and it summarizes it for the Western Cape. So you can see in the top line the applications received in the Western Cape for each month, and these are cumulative. So they include the new applications that have come in month on month. So by October, we've got 831,711 applications for the Western Cape specifically. Of those, 414,613 have been approved and paid, and the applications that have been declined because they don't meet the criteria is 391,911. Now, in the next slide, I've just given you a total of the breakdown of why the applications didn't qualify, which gets to the 391,000 that I had mentioned. Where it says for the first one, age outside range, the applicant was either less than 18 or above 60 when they applied for the 350 grant. The above 60 were declined because they could apply for the old age pension, and it is way more beneficial for them to actually apply for the old age pension. It is a sustainable long-term form of income rather than the short-term one. So where we've had those declined, we've advised the people to go in and apply for the old age pension. Then there were a number of people who applied who were identified either through the validations that Sasa does or through the validations that were done by the Auditor General in their audit, because they've been auditing this scheme as we've been implementing. It's not like the usual audits that only get done at the end of the financial year in which the payments were made. The AG has actually been auditing these monthly as we move through, and where they've identified people that have been found on getting other government support, especially with the COVID government support, then we have had to decline them for the months going forward. So people who are, for example, receiving assistance through the government debt relief scheme, there were 10 of them that were declined. 93,000, very nearly 94,000 people applied despite the fact that they were receiving a social grant. And these are the Western Cape numbers only. And then the list goes through. You'll see there were 41,479 applications that failed because the information didn't match that held by Home Affairs. Those people have not been excluded. They can still go back, and a significant number of them have gone back to go and update their details. And as soon as the details are updated, then we do reconsider them again. But you will see from these reasons for rejection that the biggest number is for the people who were found on the IRP5 database and the UIF database. Those are people that we've encouraged to appeal, and we will then reconsider them based on both the updated information received from the Department of Labour for those people who are actually receiving a UIF benefit, or through the means testing that will be done with the bank specifically on the appeals. Now, Honourable Chairperson and members, just to update on the appeals, and I'm sorry, I didn't put it in the slide. I just received these numbers this morning, but I will send it through to the committee secretary. We've received a total to date of 84,846 appeals, of which 38,056 have been captured onto our appeal register, which means they are ready to start being reconsidered. The others, the team is still busy with the capturing, and we've got deadlines and targets set for them to finalize those, understanding that appeals do continue to come in on a daily basis. And we really are encouraging people who've been declined, who believe that they qualify for this grant, to lodge an appeal. Now, of the total appeals that have been received, 3,748 have been received from people who applied in the Western Cape alone. And those are the current numbers as at this morning. Chairperson, I think that in total is the presentation that I wanted to make to the honourable members. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. Would any of the other colleagues at Sasa like to add anything before we move on to questions?
Yes, Chair. Bandile Maqethuka, I would like to add. Chairperson, if you look at the presentation by my colleague, we didn't include the slide that speaks to implementation challenges. If maybe you can allow me just a minute at a high level to share with you what are the implementation challenges that we're observing on the ground. The first one, Chair, if you allow me, we are observing long queues at SAPO outlets. Long queues at SAPO outlets, that's the first one. The second challenge, Chairperson, is the issue of capacity challenges on the SAPO side with regard to shortage of tellers, inadequate cash, non-performance of queue management at SAPO outlets, non-observation of the social distancing measures in some of the SAPO outlets, and also the violent behavior of the 350 clients. Those are some of the implementation challenges. What are the interventions that we're employing to mitigate against such shortcomings? The first one that we have done, Chair and honorable members, we have identified the hotspot SAPO outlets nationwide in all provinces, including Western Cape, which outlets are having long queues and which outlets are always having challenges in terms of people getting their money. We have done so working closely with SAPO. And then we took a joint collective resolution between Sasa and SAPO to come up with a booking system that Mrs. Diane Dangley has alluded to say, let's look at the capacity of each SAPO outlet so that people don't queue the whole day. They are told at 4 o'clock that we are closing, we can't assist you. When people come, they must come with a guarantee that they will be paid on that particular day. Therefore, each SAPO outlet now is looking at its capacity and issue booking cards to all those who will be paid on each day. When you come, you know you will be paid on that day. That's what we have introduced. Furthermore, Chairperson and members, we have engaged the South African Police Services to assist us with crowd management and control at all the hotspot SAPO outlets. We have also engaged various NGOs and civil structures to give us volunteers, including NDA, to assist with the queue management and also to ensure that the social distancing measures are maintained at all SAPO outlets. Our Sasa customer care officials are also deployed at all the hotspot SAPO outlets to monitor the processes and also to assist with the inquiries and also queue management. We don't want people to leave SAPO outlets and go to a nearby Sasa office to inquire about their payment status. Some of them are not computer literate, they can't operate those cell phone gadgets. Therefore, we're deploying our own staff members to be there to give assistance on site so that people don't lose their positions on queues as well. We have also provided PPEs to all the volunteers, NDA and Sasa staff members who are deployed at SAPO outlets. We have also engaged Chairperson SAPO to ensure that adequate cash is available at all SAPO outlets. And we also have a challenge with regard to COVID-19 related challenges that affected adversely the SAPO staff members. You find that some outlets are closed because of COVID-19. If once SAPO staff members is infected, we have agreed with SAPO that they need to close that outlet and also make sure that it is cleaned, and then after 2 days they can reopen and make sure that all those who are affected by the closure are informed timeously. I just wanted to add to those issues, Chairperson, that when members engage us, they have a holistic picture of what is we're doing. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, members. I'm now going to move over to questions. Can I get an indication of who would like to go first?
Chairperson.
Okay, I see Member Baku Force and I see Mr. Mackenzie. Member Baku Force, you may go ahead. Member Baku Force. Okay, while we wait, Mr. Mackenzie, you may go ahead.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to the team for the presentation. I just wanted to get clarity quickly on one or two things. I also received, like I'm sure many members here, received communications from various people on this matter. And I think the first question I would like to find out, and the speaker, at the end of the presentation, share with us some of the measures they put in place. But what is the communication strategy for the people on the ground? Because they don't get some of these brilliant plans that you're trying to put in place. For example, a gentleman that I've emailed, that I was in contact yesterday, shared with me that he received his grant 3 months ago from the post office, and the last 2 months that he's gone, he just says there's no money for him. So he stands in the queue early in the morning, like most people do. He'll rise at 4 o'clock. By the time he gets served at 1 or 2 o'clock, the only thing they tell him, there's no money for him, and he's gone there twice now. So what is what communication, what do you tell the post office to tell individuals in a case like this? Because surely, and I think all of us wouldn't want to stand in a queue for a whole day and somebody's only thing they tell you is there's no money. That will be frustrating for me as well. That's one example. The second example would be the individuals that are being declined. And you've given us a presentation here, statistic on one of your slides, with obviously the 391 individuals and the various reasons that you've given us here in the committee. What do you tell those people? Because they don't seem to get this message that we're getting. Do you tell, like we always say, Auntie Suraya, the reason you are not here is because you are UIF registered, or the reason you are not here because your ID number? Because they don't seem to get that communication. The only thing they're getting is they are declined, and they don't get that message from the post office or wherever they go. So what is your communication strategy going forward for those individuals, whatever valid the reason is, to communicate to them? The third point is also on communication. When the post office, and validly so runs out of money because they're expecting, as you say, 100,000 people, they're now at 4 million. So you are going to get a post office in towns, or just plain, for example, they're expecting 1,000 people, suddenly there's 6,000 people. At which point during the day, and your interaction with them and their interaction with the community, do they say, or the people in the queue go to the queue at 10 o'clock and say, hey, at Ricardo, you're at number 105. It's unlikely that we're going to get to you today. Please come back tomorrow or Thursday, Friday. Based on the information, and I'm on the ground, as Mitch explained on Monday, people wait there until 3, 4 o'clock. And then they get told there's no money. So at some point, there needs to be a queue management system where either they give people the ticket. I think when I got to Home Affairs for my passport, they gave you a ticket, you're number 50 in the queue. So when they've given out 80 tickets, they know the 80 tickets are to the value of, let's say, 10,000 Rand. It's impossible for them to give out R1 million. So that whoever's there since 5 o'clock or who don't get a ticket by 6:30 or 7 can now make up the decision to go home or to go to another facility. So there seems to be, there are valid problems, and I'm happy that you're looking at things to solve it, but there seems to be no communication, whether it's from you to the post office or from the post office to the individual, so that the post office can also move tellers around to say, hey, Brackenfell post office, no one comes to here, but Brackenfell, let's send 50 tellers. Don't come to work tomorrow, go to Nyanga or to Kailicha or to Mitchell's Plain. There seems to be no management of this process. And I think that is where the violence, the anger, and the frustration from the communities come in, because they stand there for the whole day and then suddenly there's no money. And the last point, Chair, on your slide on the Western Cape stats for September, you said, yeah, 809,000, and then October 831,000. But your applications approved for September is constant. It's 809,000 September, approved 414,000, declined 391. But for October, you received 31 or 28,000 more applications, which is 831,000. Applications approved 414,000. So it seems like you've done no work. It seems, maybe it's a calculation error, but it seems like you've done no work between September and October, because applications declined, the numbers also the same. So there seems to be 20,000 applications sitting somewhere in the system that no one is managing. Either there's an error, or it seems that it hasn't been dealt with. Thank you, Chair. I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you, Member Mackenzie. I now see Member Baku Force. Member Baku Force. Shall we move on to Member Windvogel?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I think I'm partly covered by Member Mackenzie if it comes to communication, but I really need to understand if it comes to the rural areas. Remember, we don't have Sasa offices in the rural areas. They are coming out once or twice a month. How, in terms of communication, because what I experience now, I have an influx of people coming to my office with this. I'm sitting with a list of nearly 100 people. Yeah, there's no explanation why they were declined. When you try to phone, there's a type of number that they gave us where we can phone, but that line is always congested. Then there's a website. You don't get access to that website either. So the communication to Auntie Anna and Pete in the rural areas, what is the line of communication to these type of people? For us, perhaps it's a small amount, but for them, it's their bread. It's putting bread on their table. It's their way of survival. So it's really a problem if it comes to communication to inform these type of people. That's the problem. Can you really do? Oh, we need that or that, whatever the problem or what the answer is. But we really need that type of communication towards these applicants. Chairperson, then I'm not sure you can call me out of order, but what I need to know, the president announced 100 billion, I think, to job creation and in his he announced that amount in his speech, the 100 billion towards job creation, job protection, and job and creation. Now I want to understand, because if I listen to one of the officials of Sasa or the department, I'm not sure, he mentioned that the understaff, I think, was also played a role in service, in serving the people. And my understanding that the government is giving 16.6 billion to the different departments. Do they have such program in Sasa also from social development side? So I just need clarity on that one too, Chairperson. I think I will park there. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Windvogel. Member Barnes.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, let me start by apologizing for if maybe I'm going to be out of order because I have a challenge with network. I couldn't follow the entire presentation as is, or if I'm asking a question that's already asked, also call me to order on that one. From the parts that I heard from the presentation, the first one that I would like to make an inquiry is on the validation. I think the presentation, I think it was the first or second slide that was speaking on the validation or in the fallouts. I just wanted to check in case where there was an explanation where names were given wrong, for example, a username or ID was written, if that was rectified, and if so, if an applicant made an application, did he or she get the application? And then my second part would be, since I didn't see latter of the presentation, the geographical spread, if perhaps we could be granted to see as to who and where got from this grant jointly. So I want to align myself with Member Windvogel. The reason for the question on the geographical spread mainly stretches on the part that my concern is on the areas that are mostly using your mobile centers, your Sasa mobile centers. As we've seen over this period, they've been seriously affected, including my own constituency, which is Beaufort West area. You are seeing in the areas where there is offices, people are queuing up and lining up. For example, I want to be practical when I use the Beaufort West. In Beaufort West, you'll see post offices are queued up and lined up, but there are areas that don't even have. Now I'm speaking of your Nelspoort, your Maritzburg, your Merwevel. How were they included in, did they give communication? In fact, did they get communication as to apply or how to apply, what's the inclusion on them. Chairperson, I think I'm also worried a little bit about the communication, if also we can get a sense of as to when this grant will stop, if there is any communication that is going out to the communities, or in fact the beneficiaries, are they aware that maybe there's an extension or there's no extension, but what is the initial time given for the grant to be stopping? On that note, I would like to thank you for the opportunity, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Barnes. Member Baku Force, are you there?
Yes, Chair, thank you very much. I have a connection problem in my area. My network is so down. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. Firstly,
Remember, we
have to commend the Nation Program, which millions would but this program acted as a buffer to cushion the poor from the severe effect of the pandemic. It needs to be sustained for a long time because many people depend on it. I therefore want to understand whether there has been an impact assessment done to determine the usefulness of this grant and what are the plans to extend and sustain it for many more years. I have also a question. As I'm based, my constituency office based in Drakenstein, Chairperson, there are many complaints in my area. The complaints is about the volunteers who cannot assist them. I understand Sasa appointed NYDA to make sure that the volunteers are going in the grounds. But the challenge there is that when the volunteers are registering these people to get grants, they find out that the people are already applied, but they don't have a solution on what they could do if they already applied, because the people wants to know from the volunteers of Sasa/NYDA, how can they access their money? Because whenever they are trying to register them to apply, they pick up that they are already applied. Some of the people applied 6 months back, 3 months back. I want to make an example in Didorens. There is a organization that is working very close with Sasa and NYDA, and they have the volunteers on the ground, but still they don't have solution or the answers of why those people were not paid their grants. And those people, when they go to the post office, they kept on be told that they must come next month. So can the SAS elaborate for us, most especially in the Boland area, what can be done to make sure that the volunteers are empowered to help those people who didn't get their grants, instead of concentrating in registering the applicants, because most of the applicants, most of the volunteers are prepared for the many communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Baku Force. I'm now going to hand over to the team from Sasa to respond to that round, and then we'll open it up again for another round. Team at Sasa, I'm handing over to you.
Chairperson, thank you very much for the questions. If maybe I can ask Sis Diane Dunkley to respond to the questions that are policy related, followed by Mr. Setoka, and then Mr. de Grauw will come to the Western Cape specific questions, and then I'll come in at the end. If you can follow that sequence, Chairperson, with your concurrence.
Thank you. That's in order with me.
Sister
Thank you, Honourable. Thank you, Honourable Chair. Thanks, members. There were some questions that I picked up around the extension of this grant and when the grant will end. Just to confirm to the members that at this stage, the only information that Sasa has is that the grant will end at the end of January 2021. The policy decisions around whether it can be made a permanent grant and so on, unfortunately, is not within Sasa's scope to be able to deal with. We certainly do provide input, but it is not our decision. And at the end of the day, it does come down to an affordability question. And linked with that then would be the questions about whether an impact assessment has been done. The Department of Social Development, the National Department of Social Development, as the policy custodian, has actually appointed a company to do a rapid impact assessment. They're currently busy with it, so we're hoping we will get that outcome very shortly, because it will certainly be used to inform decisions going forward. Chairperson, then I just wanted to also respond on the question around from the Honourable Member around why the September and October numbers for the Western Cape are exactly the same, and yet we've received new applications. If the Honourable Member looks at the previous slide, which shows the national picture, it shows that there's 121,124 new applications which were received in October, which are still going through the validation. The numbers from the Western Cape are included in that 121,000. The reason the number for September and October is exactly the same is that in order to try and deal with the backlog in the payments, we processed September's and October's together, and we made a single payment of 700 Rand for the 2 months. And that is why the numbers are the same. The new applications that were received in October were then validated, and we're still finalizing that process. So there are still 20-odd thousand in the Western Cape that need to be paid for October. Those are for applications that were actually received in the month of October and were not in the system for September as well. Let me just make sure that I have, okay, the other question, which was around the programs for job creation. We don't have a specific program within Sasa, except that we participate in government's programs to employ EPWP workers as well as interns, which all fits into the job creation work that is being done on a broader basis. But it has to also fit in with what is being done throughout government. So Sasa will contribute where we are able to within that broader government program. Thank you so much, Rem. I think you can pick up on the Western Cape specific issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Ai. Mr. Setoka?
Sorry, Rem, he is no longer on the call. He was called away. So if Mr. de Grauw can continue, please.
Thank you, Sister Ai. Mr. de Grauw?
Thank you, Rem. I will try and deal with most of the questions, and I will take them one by one as raised by the honourable members. The Honourable Mackenzie, I think throughout the comments that came from the different honourable members would be the communication strategy. It's one area that we can still improve on within Sasa, and more especially within the Western Cape, and more especially in the rural areas. The Honourable Mackenzie referred to the queues and the people coming there in the communication. I can honestly say I've also worked those queues. The main problem is when people have now received the notification that they have been approved, and now they're waiting for the second SMS to come to say that they must go to the post office and collect. And people are so desperate to receive that money that they're not going to wait for that SMS. Although we have worked the queues, although we communicate them through our call center, and myself, I sit on the WhatsApp line and respond to the questions that they would come through, people will still go to the post office. You can work the queues and inform them that they must wait for the SMS. They're not going to move out of that queue until they get to the counter to hear from the persons, from the clerks, that there is no money for them. And that's the unfortunate situation that we are facing. But the one area is because people are desperate. And next week, although they have not received that SMS yet, they will be back in that queue to come and hear if there's not money for them, although you have communicated to them that they must wait for that SMS. The best that one can do is actually just in terms of the queue management and to ensure that the social distancing is adhered to. The second point that the Honourable Mackenzie raised was in terms of the money. What SAPO will do, they would receive how many people would actually be paid. And they have certain drops for the money. So, for example, they will have a drop in the morning, and there's supposed to be a drop then later in the day. Now, sometimes those drops do not take place, and where the SAPO officials will then wait for that money to be dropped and not coming through. In the long run, they will have to tell those people, sorry, that there's no money for them. And not knowing also how many, they would know how many people would be paid because they receive that list, but they don't want to sit with too much cash due to the robberies that also take place. The same principle would also apply for the normal social grant payments. And I agree with Honourable Mackenzie. One of the biggest frustrations is when the post office would actually run out of money. And I've seen how people then would run from the one post office to the other one just to go and check if there's money for them, or where they have received a notification that there's money now available for them. But within that very same post office within their community, that there would be no money. And with the SAPO management, is something that we have actually discussed with them in terms of the distribution then of the money.
Thank you. So as well. So
the other point is, and the communication can be clear in terms of the reasons for the decline. We have received permission now from the head office, where we have provided them with a list of names of our officials that would have access to the system now, where they can provide reasons as to what's going on, what is the status of those particular persons. And those names we can actually make available also to the honourable members, so that they know whom to contact at those various offices to check on the applications of the officials.
Into the Iron Lady herself, Margaret Thatcher. This will get edited.
Sorry,
I'm not sure where the noise is coming from. Let me just mute all. And Mr. De Grey, you just have to unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm back, sir.
You can go ahead.
Okay, with regard to the honourable member Van Vogel, yes, the rural areas, that is also where we try to deploy many of the volunteers. But as I indicated, the communication can be strengthened. So I agree with the honourable member in that regard, and especially in the rural areas. In those rural areas, and especially at the Sasa offices, we do have those officials now that would have access to the system, that would be able to provide the status of where people would be in terms of the applications. With regard to the Beaufort West situation, what I've done, and this is also for the honourable members, I actually serve on the JOC meeting, as well as the humanitarian group that the province actually established. And on both of those structures, I gave regular feedback as to how people can apply, what is the current status at this particular stage. And a lot of the information has been provided also to the honourable member, the MEC Fernandez, as well as to the different heads of the department, as well as the district municipalities, with the request that they need to assist us in actually spreading that information as widely as possible. And still, on the JOC meeting with the different district municipalities representative from the province, I would actually provide the updates and what are the current challenges that we experience in that regard. But I think in taking it from this meeting, again, to liaise with our officers, and especially in terms of Nelspruit and Maritzburg, which are actually two of the poorest areas in our communities, instruct those officials to visit those areas and actually undertake the door-to-door campaign, because it's still not too late actually to target some of those persons and deal with some of the challenges in that regard. With regard to the volunteers, when they would actually come back, and especially in the Drakenstein area, now that our officers would have the access to the system, whatever challenges that they would pick up actually to come back and to provide that to the local officers and try and get the responses from them in that regard. I will liaise with our head office as to providing the names of the officials at the different offices that would have access to the system, so that the honourable members can also know whom to liaise with at those offices. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Chairperson?
Thank you very much. Yes, sir, you may go ahead.
Thank you once again, Chairperson. Chairperson, I was going to propose that maybe we provide the committee members and the Honourable Chair with contact details of all our district managers, all our local office managers, and also all staff members who have functions in terms of responding to 350 grant inquiries, so that you look for the person within the area where you reside, so that we can fast track the issue of dealing with inquiries in this regard. Furthermore, Chairperson, it's clear from the comments of the honourable members that maybe we need to deploy teams to move into those rural areas to make sure that all those who are unable to get access onto our system are afforded that opportunity. That one I'll leave with Mr. Tikra to be able to come up with a plan, as he is the operations general manager for grants in the Western Cape, and come up with a workable plan that will be shared with the committee members for them to know which areas require some assistance and by when Sasa will be able to be in those areas. Chairperson, we have contracted volunteers from the NGO, NPO sector, from NDA. We are paying them data on a monthly basis. That data is meant to assist all those who don't have access onto our systems through their cell phones. We are making that commitment that there must be value for money in terms of those people getting into those communities. I have noted, Chairperson, the comments by the Honorable Mackenzie, and indeed, we are going to take that advice that he's giving us in terms of ensuring that people are informed timeously about whether they will be paid on the day in question or not, and then also the movement of tellers around. We'll take that issue up with SAPO to make sure that no persons are waiting for a long time in our queues without being given a proper answer. There is a comment that was made by Honorable Van Vogel with regard to the capacity of SAPO tellers. When I made a comment earlier on, Chair, I said COVID-19 is also playing its part, but it should not be an excuse, Chairperson. Whenever staff members are affected, we must find a way of replacing those staff members so that services continue. We have taken note of that as well, Chairperson. But lastly, Chair, it's clear that we need to beef up our communication. The issue of community radio stations becomes imperative. Now that Mr. Tikra goes to Prof joins on a regular basis to brief interest groups and various stakeholders on the work that we're doing, we need to go out to radio stations which are closer to where our people reside and make sure that we share this information on a regular basis, Chairperson. Chair, that's it from our side. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Before I move on to a new round of questions, members, are there any follow-ups? Mr. Mackenzie?
Yes, Chairperson, just on the one follow-up, and I'd thanks for the feedback. If individuals, the question I ask, the individual goes to the post office or any facility to get their money, and they receive the money on the one occasion, but then they go back, for example, the one particular case that I'm dealing with for the last 2 months, they're just being told there is no money. No reasons are given, and you can imagine the people, and I'm sure that's not an isolated case, people are going to get frustrated. What is their process? As communicated before, I mean, I emailed the Minister Shana Fernandez 2 days ago on the case, and I did see there's an email forthcoming from one of the officials present in this meeting. But there's not an isolating case. I mean, there's so many of them that I've heard. What could have gone wrong, which we don't have to go into the technical details now, but what is the communication? What do you tell SAPO to tell those people? Because those people just get there and the only answer is there is no money. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Member Van Vogel?
Chair, I just need to know by when can we expect to receive the contact list of the different officials in the different districts? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So just bearing in mind those follow-ups, if I could also perhaps ask if we are able to get an indication of what the number of declined applications are for Gauteng, for the Eastern Cape, and for KZN, if Sasa is able to give us that comparison. And then also perhaps if Sasa could walk us through the technical aspects of the application. So I understand that there's multiple channels being used for application. So is this entire technical process operated and managed by Sasa, or is it outsourced to a specific agency? If so, who is that agency? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. I think Mr. Dai can respond to the last question and also the one before the last question, and then Mr. Tikra and myself will deal with the last two, the first two questions. Over to you, Mr. Dai.
Thanks, Rem. Thanks, honourable members. The issue around the declined numbers for KZN and Eastern Cape, I can certainly give that information. We can give you a comparison across the country of the declined applications per province. I will send that through. I'll send that through straight after we finish the meeting today. The question around who is supporting us, the entire process of receiving applications, dealing with them and so on is being dealt with by Sasa. we have built a system to deal with the 350 grant. It is completely separate to our social grant application system. We are supported through a contract that we already had in place within Sasa for the IT support, and that is a contract with ProSense that provides the IT support for the system that has been built, but it is owned and managed by Sasa. Thank you, Rem.
Thank you, Sister. Mr. de Graaff, can we deal with the first question?
Yes, it's actually more Mrs. Dunkley that can also respond in terms of the delays. But Sasa would normally transfer that money actually to the post office on a monthly basis. But the delays would also come from the post office in terms of the backlogs, transferring the money to their different branches. And I know Mr. Satoha is actually working with the post office to eradicate those backlogs and to bring it up to date. Mrs. Dunkley can report further what is done in that regard. On the second question, it's no problem. I think within the next 24 hours and through the provincial coordinator, we will ensure that that the list of the regional Sasa representatives, and especially the key persons who would be the drivers for the COVID-19 inquiries, as well as the district senior managers, the local office managers, and the list of the officials who received the access to the system now recently, for that actually to be made available then to the provincial coordinator, and they can distribute it further. That will be made available within the next 24 hours.
So, Stai, do you want to add with regard to the first question?
Thanks very much. Thanks, honourable members. The process is that as we approve the grants, we then send a payment file through to the post office for all the people that collect their money through post office. We do payment files multiple days in a week, so it's not just sent through once a month. It gets sent through weekly and sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, depending on the numbers that we have. When it gets to the post office, they've asked us for 4 days for them to then credit the accounts and make sure that it is available in the account for the client. So we have an arrangement with them that once we've sent the payment file through, we wait for 4 to 6 days, and we then send the SMS to the client to say that the money is now available for you. You can go to the post office to collect. But as Mr. de Graaff was explaining earlier on, a lot of the people, the minute they see the status on the system as approved and paid, they then go to the post office straight away. And that is one of the challenges, because they get to the post office before the post office has been able to do the back end processes of crediting the accounts. And that is why we've tried to manage it through the sending of the SMSs. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Chairperson and honorable members, the validation and verification for eligibility is done on a monthly basis. In case your circumstances have changed, it's not automatic that if we are approved for May, you'll get it for the next 6 months. We validate every month and confirm if indeed we are still eligible. It's a process that SASA does on a monthly basis. You'll find that one will be eligible in May, you don't qualify for June. It's because we do validation on a monthly basis to check if we are still eligible or not. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Member Windvogel. Member Windvogel, is that a follow-up hand?
Sorry, Chair, no. Let me just lower my hand.
Okay, Member McKenzie, I see your hand is still up. Is that
Yes,
a new
Chairperson. Let me, yeah, I don't think perhaps perhaps I didn't ask the question properly, or the relevant officials didn't hear it properly. And I'm going to read the email that I got from Sasa. The email is, good day, kindly advise that the SRD grant is managed by Sasa head office. Sasa head office is currently working on the backlog payments. Mr. Support will be notified via SMS when payment will be made available. Kind regards, Jane Grappington, practical customer says Sasa signed, etc. Now, if at this level, that this is the communication and I have not even received the response to general managers here in this email, you can just imagine the frustration the people on the ground goes through. Somebody who's gone to get the payment month 1, month 2, 3, 4, they're not getting in payment. And the communication, like we see today, Sasa's working on the backlog payment. At what communication, I asked my first question, I asked again, what communication does Sasa give to the post office to give to people? Because Mr. Sapo is not going to go back next month. He's going to go back December, January, and he's just going to be saying there is no money. And then this is the communication that I receive in writing from the Sasa. That cannot be the communication we give to people that stand outside the post office for 9 hours. They're working on the backlog payments or they're working on this and that. Surely there has to be another to say, as the GM said so early on, if you did not, because let's say we found out that you won the lotto, so you're not entitled to 350. Now there is an answer. So the gentleman who ever won the lotto, or we saw in SARS, you've now got a job, you're now earning X amount, that is an answer. But an answer is not that we're working on the backlog payments or there is no money. And that's what I'm asking, what is the communication? And like I said, this is just one case that I'm dealing with now, but I'm sure there are many countrywide. What do we tell people so that they stand in the, don't have to go stand in the queue for 7-8 hours? In this case, Mr. Sarkput, if I can guarantee you, if I check my phone, there's probably another, please call me from him. I don't have an answer to them at this level. Member of Parliament written to Sasa, there is still no proper answer. Sasa's head office working on the backlog payment. What does it mean?
Thank you, Member Mackenzie. Member Barnes.
Thank you, Chairperson. Can you hear me, Chairperson? Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Loud
Okay,
and
thank
clear.
you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I'm partly covered by Member Mackenzie because I wanted to make a follow-up on the time frame. I think the presenter said earlier that that this grant will be ending by the end of January, if I'm correct. What I wanted to hear on my follow-up is if this information is communicated to the beneficiaries, are they aware that the grants will be ending? This is the projected time. I only wanted clarity on that. I'm just worried on the communication a little bit, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, are there any other last round questions? Just a question. Yes, Member Windvogel, you may go ahead.
Yeah, Chair, the last one is on, I'm sitting actually with a client inside. She went to the post office, she received money, but then the post office, one of the staff members told her that they took in a, I'm not sure what card of proof of documentation that she have, but they took it in. And now she wants to know, must she reapply after the announcement that the grants are extended? So what is the process forward? Or they are already in the system, must they again go and reapply? Or yeah, what is the process forward for people who already received money and their stuff was taken in by the post office?
Okay, that sounds a bit of a peculiar one. Just a final question from my side. If perhaps colleagues could enlighten us, why was the route, the payment routes chosen to be the post office for cash payments, and why not use all the banks for those payments, where someone could just go into a bank and collect their payment? And then the final question from Member Mackenzie.
Yes, Chairperson, I just wanted to give one final question. As we're going into December now, when we know the country shuts down on the 15th, or I think it's Friday the 12th or the 13th, I think that last Friday, I can't remember. What is the plan? Because unfortunately, but it is going to be the reality that we're going to deal with. It's unlikely people are able to get a hold of anyone after the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th. What is the communication plan for the millions of people that needs to receive that grant? And by when do you expect from your side that all the grants will be And is there a backup plan for those 60 or 70,000 people in the province or the country that we've seen the last few months that did not, that 1.15% in your slide, that did not get their money? So on the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, that we don't need to read about a post office that being burned down in Dar because the 200 people there were so frustrated they did that. What is your plan? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to hand over to the team at Sasa now.
Thank you, Chair, once again. Sister Diane Dunkley, can you lead us on the answering of the questions, followed by Mr. Tikra, and then I'll come in.
Thank you, Rem. Thank you, honourable members. Just to clarify, nobody who's already in the system needs to reapply for this extended period. Everybody who's in the system will be considered for the next 3 months. New applicants can still make application, and they can go through our WhatsApp channel as well as our website or the email channel to be able to make applications, even for these last few months. The question around why did we choose SAPO as a payment option? It was really a default option. We really did not want to have these kind of numbers paid through post office because we know that their infrastructure can't cope with the numbers. However, we'd engaged banks. Banks will only pay people who have accounts with them. We also explored the option of banks opening these so-called light accounts where they can be opened at kiosks and so on and not necessarily in person. Even that, although we've tried to encourage people to do that, people have chosen not to use bank accounts. We're also aware that of the 4 million that go and collect their money at the post office, we know that at least half of them have bank accounts, but they chose not to give us that information to receive the payment. So by default, because we have a contract with post office for the payment of social grants, we ended up using that contract to be able to get the payments done as quickly as possible and not have to go through a procurement process to get banks on board to do the payments without having accounts for the applicants. So it really has been a case of use what we have to be able to provide the services within the limited time frame that was available. Then just in terms of the plan to make sure that all the outstanding clients have been paid, we have to report on a weekly basis to the state president, and we've had to show him that all the backlog payments will be made by the end of November and that we then are just doing monthly payments. I can assure the honourable members that we are not going on leave in December. People will be paid what they're entitled to. And those that still need to collect the money for the previous months that have been approved and paid, it will be available for them. So I really just wanted to assure the honourable members on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sister Dai. Mr. Dibra.
Yes, for the Honourable Mackenzie, Jane Grapperton is one of the staff members dealing with the COVID-19 social relief. And what is very important, there are two messages that we would normally focus on. And I myself would also respond to that, whatever, it's a WhatsApp or call, to be actually trying to be accessible as far as possible. Now, the first thing is when that person is approved, that is key for us to find out, has a person been approved? Because all that the official then can do is to indicate now the process is for that SMS to come through to indicate the money is available at the post office. And the official was correct because that is the national process then for the communication to be done from that part to that beneficiary, informing them the SMS will come through. And that's a guarantee I myself to give to persons. If you have been approved, and as Mrs. Dunkley indicated, you will be paid, even if we must clear our backlog. But what the Honourable Mackenzie is referring to, yes, people are getting tired of waiting for that SMS to come through to say, you must go to the post office now to go and collect the money. And I agree, that is part of the biggest frustration that people are sitting with, not knowing when will that SMS actually come through for them to go and collect their money. And it's something that we will just have to work with SAPO, with our head office, in terms of the communication to the beneficiaries, and from myself also strengthening the queue management. With regard to the honourable members Windvogel's question, and in terms of the post office, I really don't know, but the honourable member can make contact with me so that I can follow up with that post office as to why documents were actually taken in, because that's not what the post office is supposed to do, because everything is done online, so that I can just follow up and find out what happened actually in that regard. I think for the other questions, Mrs. Dunkley liaised with, but Mr. Chair, just actually the main point, and I think coming back to Honourable Mackenzie, the delay in terms of that SMS coming through to the beneficiaries to indicate to them that they can't go and collect their money, which actually leads to quite a lot of the frustration. In terms of the declines, where a person has been declined, we would normally advise that particular person follow then the appeal route. If you are in disagreement with the Sasa decision, and as Mrs. Dunkley indicated, they are dealing with the appeals, and outcomes of the appeals will be provided to person. It has taken some time, yes, for us to get those structures in place, but I think we're up and running now to deal with all of those appeals. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Tigra. Chairperson, in fact, we prefer people to get money through bank accounts, but the problem is that most of our clients do not have bank accounts. That's why people were channeled through post office. But we have also looked into the option of a mobile money payment option. And indeed, some have chosen it, but we also have a long list or significant number of people who are not collecting through that mobile banking options that have given to us. And each region has been given a list of all those who have not yet collected through the mobile money option. And we'll really appreciate if we can be assisted in terms of getting hold of all those who have not collected. We do have a list for each province, because people have chosen the e-wallet option, but they are not going to withdraw. They are not withdrawing at all. We'll really appreciate if you can work with your committee and other structures within the province of Western Cape to ensure that people do collect their monies through the e-wallet option. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, sir. This committee will certainly help. Many of us are constituency heads across the province, and we'll also enlist the help of the Department of Social Development here in the Western Cape for them to also assist in making people aware of the fact that they do have money that's owed to them that they need to collect. Member Mackenzie, I see a hand.
Then, can you hear me?
Yes,
sorry, somebody hitting a Chairperson. I appreciate the feedback that our colleague gave us from the department, but I'm going to be honest, I'm still no wiser whether this gentleman, Mr. Sapin, in the case in question, when or if he will receive his money.
Can I ask Mr.
Mackenzie?
Mr. Mackenzie, can I ask that you forward the specifics of those details to Mr. de Graaff?
Of course,
and we can see whether that can be solved.
Yeah. But again, it's just the principle. If there's a case like this, there might be other cases like that as well. But anyway, yeah, I'll send it through.
Yes.
I think what will be helpful, members, is once we get the contact details for all of the different managers at the different regional offices, that will be helpful in order to help us sort of answer some of those queries, but also if things need to be escalated We do have the contact details for the executive that's joined us at the moment. Members, are there anything else from your sides before we excuse the colleagues from the South African Social Security Agency?
Covered, Chair.
Thank you. With that, I'd like to say thank you very much to the colleagues for joining us this morning and for honoring our invitation. Thank you, Mr. Makatuka, Mr. de Graaf, and Ms. Dunkley. A special thank you to Mr. de Graaf for always answering our emails and questions, sometimes answering my emails quite late at night. I do think that the challenge with the lockdown, at the beginning of the lockdown, the Sasa offices were all closed, and that caused a lot of anxiety, but I'm grateful for the work that's being done behind the scenes. So we thank all of you for making yourself available, and we look forward to continuing our engagement, and we will also accept the additional information that you've promised in the form of the contact details of those officials, as well as the comparison statistics of the declined applications across the country. You may all now leave the meeting, and the members and officials will stay behind.
Chairperson, before we leave, I would like to express our appreciation to the committee and yourself for inviting us, and also for the guidance provided to Sasa by the committee members. We look forward to future engagements with the committee so that we can clarify all issues that require us to come and explain what we are doing as Sasa. Thank you very much, Chair and honorable members.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair and members. Goodbye.
Members, we're now moving on to resolutions based on that presentation. Are there any resolutions besides the two requests for information that we have?
Chairperson, Ricardo
Yes,
Mackenzie.
Mr. Mackenzie.
And I would like to see an operational plan for the December period over the next 6 or 8 weeks to, one, A, deal with the backlogs, and B, the plan for ensuring that all the beneficiaries get their what's due to them during the December period, including January, because I'm afraid, given past experience, I suspect we are going to have some issues in December. And all of us, our phones will ring for people looking for the 350 rands.
Are there any other resolutions emanating from that presentation, members? Nomonde, was there anything that you noted specifically?
Yes, Chair, sorry. Chair Ricardo Mackenzie?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I muted myself. And then just, I mean, it's great they got all these issues that they have identified, challenges, and if they can just send us the solutions to some of these challenges. And I know he said he was going to send the email, if we can just get that. And also their new or their improved communication strategy. How do they communicate with people who has been declined for whatever valid reason, so that people don't get frustrated and angry when they get to the post office? And obviously, I presume that the tellers are just as frustrated because they don't know what to tell people. So what is this communication strategy going to be for the next 2 or 3 months while this grant is still in place? Thank you.
Okay. Nomonde, is there anything else that wasn't mentioned that you perhaps noted?
You have mentioned, Chair, the contact details of all the regional managers, the local offices, and so you have indicated that, and the comparison in terms of the declined application in the Western Cape versus the KZN and the Eastern Cape. So those were the two.
Okay. So we've got those resolutions. Members, the other sort of challenge that we've had for a while now is we have continuously been rebuffed by the National Minister of Social Development. So we've written several letters to Minister Zulu requesting her to brief this committee. And I was very surprised that we received a response from Sasa, because the Sasa CEO also wrote to us to say that she does not respond to this committee and she is accountable to Minister Zulu. And Minister Zulu's indicated that, and she spoke to me at the NCOP saying that she responds to the NCOP and not to the provincial legislature. So now one part of the communication that I've received from Sasa in a request, our first request was around a briefing on the impact of the irregular expenditure at Sasa in the Western Cape. And the person who wrote, Mr. Makatuka, wrote to me saying that he's consulted with the Sasa CEO to brief our standing committee. And the response is that Sasa is a national implementing agency of the Department of Social Development and reports directly to the Minister of Social Development, who in turn accounts to the National Parliament and the National Council of Provinces. I would like you to propose that you consider writing to the Minister directly, which we have done, but we've received no response from Minister Zulu to any of our letters. So now, as you can understand, I'm very grateful that Sasa decided that they could join us this morning. They've now given us a comprehensive briefing on the social relief of distress grants, but we still haven't received that briefing on the irregular expenditure, and we're almost going towards the end of another financial year. So I just want to bring to members' attention that I am going to write to the Speaker of Parliament to ask that we look into getting the assistance of the Office of the Speaker to get the Minister to come and engage with this committee, because we do have a role in terms of getting people to account, but also the Minister has a responsibility to account to this committee, because yes, the NCOP is a space for parliamentary engagement, but the people of the province of the Western Cape deserves accountability in this forum. So I'm just tabling that as well, that I will be sending you more information once I get some guidance from the Speaker in terms of what the next steps are. Are you all still there?
Yes, we're all still there. Yes, no, I agree with your approach. I do think that precedence was set. We had previous national ministers who did come to the committee, and several committees in this parliament. So unfortunately for the Minister Zulu, precedence has been set. The ministers has come to present to this parliament. And yeah, you're right. Please speak to the Speaker on the way forward. But yeah, I'll leave it to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, we're now going to move on to, now that we've concluded the recommendations and the resolutions in terms of the presentation, we're now going to move on to the minutes of the 13th of October. Do you all have those minutes in front of you?
Yes, Chairperson, I can see.
And this was a meeting that took place at 9 on the 13th of October, and I'm tabling page 1, which is the attendance of members. Page 2, and this meeting was a briefing by the Western Cape Commissioner for Children on the operations of the Western Cape Commissioner for Children. Page 2. And then page 3. Are there any additions or corrections that members would like to make?
No, Chair, that's fine.
Thank you very much. Can I have a proposer and a seconder for the minutes, please?
I propose.
Thank you, Member Mackenzie. Can we have a seconder? Member Van Voorgel? Member Van Vogel, can we note you as the seconder?
Yes, Chair, you can note me as a seconder.
Thank you very much. Members, we're now also flighting the draft committee report. This is our draft program as at 16th of November. So you'll see there the 17th was the meeting with Sasa. Our next meeting is again on the 27th of November, and that's the deliberation on vote 7 for social development. And then after that, we'll consider the committee report on vote 7. Then we will sit on the 10th of December to deliberate on the annual report of the Department of Social Development. Then we have a provisionally plotted in a cluster visit, and that is the Cluster A committees. Then after that, we would still need to conclude our briefing by children's organizations and the issues faced by children in the province. That's something that's outstanding from last year when we started the process of looking into child murder. And then we still need to conduct a visit to the DSD warehouse facility to look at the sanitary dignity project. We've also still need a briefing by the Department of Transport and Public Works, the transport and vehicle allocation in the province, as well as the Provincial Child Welfare NGO needs to come and brief us on their work as well. I've also received a request, members, for us to conduct an oversight visit to the Haven and Night Shelter in the CBD. So between myself and Nomonde, we're going to attempt to schedule that for January, and that's a visit to the Haven and Night Shelter in Greenpoint to assess the activities, programs, and safety protocols at the shelter, because there's been some conflicting complaints about the condition of the shelter. I'd want to request from members that if there's any other items that you'd like us to place on our program, that you please bring it to our attention so that we can schedule that onto the program. If there's any specific item that you'd like us to focus on next year, or any item that you think we haven't covered sufficiently, I would really appreciate it if you could write to me and let me know what that is. And that could be something that needs to go onto the agenda, someone that we need to invite, or a visit that we need to conduct. I see Member Barnes was flashing now for a minute.
Chair, it's just
Yes,
a matter, I'm not sure now if I should raise it since you said we can write, but since you've given me the opportunity, let me just quickly flag. I was thinking for next year in oversight, I would like us as social development to visit the Karoo if it's possible. Just something to think about, Chair. I have a few old age homes that I think really deserve our attention as this committee in the Karoo. I've been in and out of old age homes with serious problems. So I think it would be a good idea as this committee to go and have oversight at those two, as they are specific, there are two that I would like us to go and visit in the next year during our oversight.
So you didn't have enough roaster cooked the last time we were in Laingsburg? Yeah,
we ended in Laingsburg. We didn't go to the old age homes, but I'm constantly running in and out of old age homes there. Okay, we in Laingsburg. I'm speaking specific now about Beaufort West and Maritzburg. They are old age homes that are writing. I'm having letters like nobody's business, even consulting with MEC herself. So
members, I'm happy with us placing a focus on old age care, and we could look at putting a program together where we visit old age homes in the Beaufort West Maritzburg area, and then perhaps look at old age homes in the Oudtshoorn area, and we could probably come through back via Cardinal as well. So we'll add that, members. But if there's any other focus areas that you'd like us to add as well, whilst you are reading through the annual report, this will be a useful thing to think about if you highlight areas that you think we need to focus our oversight lens on. Members, are there anything else?
Yes, Chair, can I just on that? So, yeah, on member bounces, yes, I think definitely if the standing committee can look at I'll speak to you afterwards because there's one or two things I also wanted to do because you serve on. Okay, let's chat after. But I think if we can put 2 or 3 days in the Karoo next year, it'll be great.
Okay, perfect. And then any other member, I would ask you that you please write to me as soon as possible so that we can populate this document and make sure that we have a plan for next year as well. Members, with that, thank you very much for your time this morning, and thank you very much for your insightful questions. I really think that we play an important role in making sure that members of the public get the information they require, and we know that many people across the country, and more specifically in this province, depend on this 350 Rand grant to feed their families and to sustain themselves during this very difficult time as people's livelihoods are being decimated by the pandemic of unemployment and poverty that is moving through this province and moving specifically through the rural parts of this province. And I do hope that our engagement this morning with Sasa will help us to be able to direct those people to enable them to get access to that money. So as you know, Sasa will send us a list of contact details, but you are also welcome to send it through to either myself or Nomonde, and we will engage with Mr. De Graa and Mr. Makatuka to make sure that some of those issues are escalated. So with that, thank you so much for your time, and a very special thank you to our support from the IT department and our very capable procedural officer, Ms. Nomonde Jamke, as well as Mr. Ben Daza. Thank you very much for the support you provide. I will see you all at our next meeting on the 27th. Have a wonderful Tuesday.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Chair. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chair. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Nomonde.